Howdly doodly do, citizens of the nerdy world. Do not press that pause button because welcome back to another fashionably late review of Ender Lilies, Quietus of the Nights. We are always fashionably late, but we still have some words about games. I am your host for this episode, David Mark Moody, the glorious one, and as always, joining me is my fabulous co-host, the impeccable one herself, the glorious Amy Kate Alexander. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. Do you know what I really, really enjoy? Like, if I had to rank, like, my favorite things in the whole world, I would put talking about video games with you in the top five.
Oh,
So I'm
bless.
having a great night.
Ah, I'm having a good night as well. I won't lie. Just took 2 hours to review 2 games.
This one won't take an hour, I promise.
Oh, no. When at the end of the day, well, I had a lot to say for a game I didn't even
I
play,
know, right?
so
You were
I
very
think
chatty in the Lost
well,
Judgment review.
I was indeed. There's no
And I'm
doubt
here for
about
it.
it.
I'm here for it.
There's no doubt. But we're not here to talk about Lost Judgment. That is
That
coming.
happened already. That happened
Might
already.
already happen. It might already be out in the YouTube verse.
It's part of the Words About Games cinematic universe, right? It's already happened.
Yes. Yes. So if you want to know everything about the cinematic words about game universe, you have to watch everything.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of feel for you.
Especially the
Oh,
streaming highlights because we have a lot of inside jokes. I've just realized.
no, yeah, no one. Like, look at a second. What?
If you watch the next streaming highlights video without watching any of our other streaming highlights videos, you're gonna get lost a few times. There's nothing I can do about that.
I get lost sometimes, and I'm part of the buggers.
He is the central focal point of many of the jokes because he is awesome,
I
ladies,
aim
gentlemen,
to
and
please.
everyone else.
I aim to please. But it's time to now get onto this new game. General information for Ender Lilies is a dark fantasy 2D action RPG about unraveling the mysteries of a destroyed kingdom. On this sorrowful, I don't know why I'm saying sorrowful journey, encounter horrific enemies against whom a moment of intention could be fatal. Overcome these hardships and seek the truth with the help of fallen knights. Amy, you've played this
Yeah,
game. You played this game out of a whim.
for him.
What are your general thoughts?
I played this game over 2 days while I was sick. And I wasn't streaming and doing stuff, but I was like, I still need to play a game. And I scrolled through my backlog and went, nah, none of those. And I went on OpenCritic and scrolled through the top rated games, and this one was the one that spoke to me, grabbed my attention. And my general thoughts are this was going to be, I would say, one of my top 5 games of 2021.
Was.
Was.
Okay.
Until a certain point, I was enjoying this game. I played it in 2 days, so I should tell you, I couldn't stop playing it. And then there was a point, and I hit that point, and I still love the game. But the reason I love the game is I had to walk away from the game when I hit a certain point. Like, this is the thing I've talked about as like a game reviewer a few times. Is I know when to walk. I know when to fold them. To say like, okay, I have reached the maximum level of enjoyment I am going to get out of this game, and it is all downhill from here if I keep going or try to keep going. And there was a moment in this game that broke me. And I'm going to talk about it later in this review, and it's going to sound like I hate the game and I'm incredibly frustrated with the game. And that's not true. I still love the game. The reason this moment was so frustrating to me is because everything leading up to that point, I was like, this might be one of my games of the year. And that's what made it so frustrating.
Fascinating. But as always, a Metrovania game lives and dies on its gameplay and world design.
Sure
So
does.
how's the gameplay, Amy?
Oh, whoever wrote that down in these notes must be really smart.
I hear nothing but amazing things about that said person.
I hear a lot of shit talked about them, but it just might just be me. Yeah. So like, we'll start with the gameplay. Like this. So the first thing you gotta know about Ender Lilies is it doesn't really like. We talk a lot about games that like do innovative stuff or do like do things differently, or it's like X but with a twist. And Ender Lilies is a Metroidvania that doesn't really do anything new, but it does all of the things it's doing incredibly well to like an incredibly high level, right? It's just a very, very satisfying Metroidvania to play, and a lot of that is down to the gameplay. So in the game, you play this white priestess called Lily. She's like a girl. She's not like even an adult. She's a child, and she has the power to purify things, enemies, blighted. They're called. Hold on, let me scroll down. They're called. I wrote it down. Yeah, they're called. I didn't write it down. They're basically these monsters. There was this rain that came and it fucked the whole kingdom up and turned everybody into monsters. And Lily can purify them. And she can't fight because she's a girl. She can't fight monsters. So at the beginning of the game, she's woken up. She can't remember anything. And there's this fallen knight who is a spirit. So someone who's already died. And that spirit does all of the fighting. And it's really cool. Like, it's a cool idea for starters, but it's also really cool in terms of how it looks on the screen and how the gameplay works. So, like, when you're fighting enemies, Lily can dodge. She can get out of the way with this really kind of endearing, like, she dives. She just dives. At the beginning of the game, she, like, it's not like a cool dodge move. She just jumps out of the way. Like I would if a monster was swinging a giant sword at me, right? Like I wouldn't do this cool action hero dodge. I'd just fucking hit the ground and get out of the way as much as I can. And like when you use the attack buttons, which you've got 3 attacks, like mapped to the buttons and stuff. Like it's the spirits that appear and do their attacks and stuff. And Lily's just standing there like that, like shit. Won't somebody help me? Like it's so cool and it looks really cool too. It looks cool as fuck, as I wrote down in my notes to remember the things that I wanted to say. Like, and I'll give you one amazing example of how well thought out and how cool it looks. Is that later on in the game, you get the ability to climb walls because it's a Metroidvania, so you get new abilities. But instead of like Lily just suddenly like climbing the walls, it's a spirit that like you jump at a wall and a spirit appears. It climbs the wall while carrying Lily. It's like, that's you thought that out, and I appreciate it. Like that is cool. Like when you get the dash mechanic, like it's the spirit that appears and dashes, and it's just got Lily and carrying her along and stuff. And I'm like, this is really cool. It's really well thought out. But in terms of like the gameplay, the core gameplay is obviously combat as well as exploration. But we'll talk about that when we talk about the world. It's tough. Very tough. It's not so much like difficult as it is challenging and demanding. Like you have to be concentrating all the time. Like you have to learn enemy attack patterns, and you have to like know when to dodge, know when to attack. Don't get too greedy. The kind of stuff you hear people talk about when they talk about things like Dark Souls, Bloodborne, Hollow Knight, games like that, where it's like it's not necessarily like, oh, it's gonna fucking destroy you because of how hard it is. More, it's make sure you're paying attention, you fucking idiot. Don't just mash the buttons. That's not going to help.
Well, that's how I like it.
Which is fine. Which is fine. There's games out there where you can totally do that, but this ain't one of them. It's really cool how you can adapt the game to your play style. Because what you do is as you're traveling through the world, you fight the main bosses and you get the main bosses. You purify them and they give you the new abilities. But you also collect them as spirits that you can then equip. So like when I was talking about the Fallen Knight is like a sword attack, right? That's what you start the game with. But you also do that with mini bosses where it's like you can find mini bosses scattered all the way through the world. You fight them, defeat them, and purify them, and then you get to keep their spirits. And all of these different spirits are all sorts of different attacks. So, for example, the Fallen Knight you meet at the beginning is a sword attack, which is a very basic sort of sword combo attack. There's other ones you can get where it's like you can get a crow. You can defeat a boss, which is a crow, and then like it means you can summon a crow that shoots fireballs. And it can shoot like 50 fireballs before it needs to. You need a rest to recharge it, or like you'll get a witch who can fire projectiles, so you can have range. Like you can have ranged attacks. You'll get like a you can purify a spirit who fights with a giant hammer, and it's like you swing this massive fuck off hammer, right? And it's like a heavy attack, stuff like that. And like they're very creative and very inventive, and you can mix and match them in any way that you want. Like even the knight, which is like your basic attack, you can just de-equip that and equip something else in its place. And you can have 3 spirits equipped at any one given time. And you can have 2 bars that you can switch between, so technically you can have 6. And it's really cool because you get to sort of try stuff out, try different combos, figure out what works, what doesn't, and really adapt it to your playstyle. So like the spirit combos that I would be using would be different from the spirit combos that somebody else would be using because we might play the game very differently. So on top of figuring out the game's rhythm and figuring out like how to like when to dodge and when to attack and figuring out each different enemy type because you'll meet fucking tons of them on your way through the game. It's awesome. You're also figuring yourself out and figuring out what works for you and what doesn't work for you, and how best to fight based on how you play the game or play games in general, I guess.
Yeah.
So it could feel really satisfying from that perspective. And then you get the boss fights. Like, so fighting enemies is fine. It's fun enough. There's a couple of annoying ones. Like, everybody's going to have, like, different opinions on what enemies are annoying, what enemies are challenging, because everybody experiences challenge in different ways. But you get to the boss fights are fucking intense, man. Like, they're so cool. The difficulty order's a bit wonky, where it's like, I think this third boss in the game was the one that gave me the most trouble, and then the next 2 I think was super easy, like for me. So it was a bit weird in terms of like, oh, I just killed this boss in one go. Like that was strange, but like the fights are always really satisfying. Like I go back to what I said about Bloodborne when I made my Bloodborne video at the beginning of the year, where it's like, I know if I'm going to get on with a challenging game or not when I'm fighting a boss, and I die because that's how it works in these challenging games. But if I've got it in my head that I can do this, like I could get past this phase, like that attack that killed me, I can figure out how to dodge that, right? That's how I felt playing Ender Lilies. Like I was fighting one boss, man. It was my 3rd attempt at fighting this boss. I died twice. And I got him down to the 3rd phase. I'd like sorted out my spirits so that I knew which ones to take that would like help me out the most. And literally, it got to that point where he had just a little bit of health left, and I was like, and I just had a little bit of health left with no heals, and I was like, oh, I'm just gonna fucking spam the attack button and go for it. Like if I could just quickly get in a couple of stabs, I'm gonna kill him. And we both hit each other at the same time. And I could see, because it goes slow-mo when you beat a boss, but it went slow-mo, but I could also see that I was like falling backwards as I died. And I was like, please God, please let that have it didn't count. Didn't count, I'd do it again. But instead of being angry, I was just like, that was really funny actually. Like, and then I went back and I got killed, and then I went back and rinsed him. But I love that moment of just like, I did it! Oh shit, I'm also dead! Fuck!
Also died. No.
I'd also point out as well, because a lot of people compare this to Dark Souls, like they compare anything that's challenging to Dark Souls. Like, if you die, you don't lose all your stuff and have to go back and get it. It's fine. You can... You then get back to the resting place, and if you've got a bunch of like stuff to upgrade one of your spirits with, like you can just do that and go back stronger. kind of over the whole, oh, you died, now you have to go back to where you died to get your souls back. I'm kind of over that now.
Yeah.
Till Elden Ring, anyway.
Yeah, I think we'll lose you when
I'm
that
sure I'll
comes out.
become a simp for all of Dark Souls' mechanics again.
Like, I'm gonna have to come up. Well, we're talking about this, a different game here, but I just have to say, I think I'm gonna have to drive up after a couple of days that game's come out. I'm gonna knock at your door. Your parents are gonna have no idea what the hell I'm gonna say. I've come to see if Amy's alive. I'll just walk in and the room's gonna stink.
There's just gonna be takeaway packets and crisps everywhere and energy
There's
drinks.
nothing alive in there.
You're gonna open the door and you can hear the clatter of all the empty energy drink cans as you open the door, and I'm just gonna be sat there like, oh.
And you just look. And I'm just gonna say, I'm sorry, you've lost your daughter. So I apologize. I'm sorry.
She'll be okay in about a week.
Don't go in there.
And Ender Lily's combat is sublime. Like, it feels so good to actually play, like, and fight. And some of the boss fights in this game, like, even the mini bosses, like, it's just so satisfying to figure stuff out and get through it, and like, you have these epic fights. Like, I love it, man. Like, I love having a fight where it just feels like an act. Like, you know when you like watch a big climactic fight in an action movie, and it just feels great to watch.
Yes.
Like, I love when a game has boss fights like that, where it's just like, it just felt great to do, like, and participate in. Like, thank you for giving me that fight to participate in. You know, thank you for that. That was really cool.
You. That's great. That's great. Like I say, like I think we all know, like, these type of games live and die on its gameplay and its world.
Segue.
So speaking of the world,
speaking of the world, hold on. All right, speaking of the world. So the other half of a Metroidvania is exploring, right? It's like you get a map and then you'll see a bunch of paths and you'll be like, well, I can't reach that. Like, how the fuck am I supposed to get all the way up there? Later on, you'll be able to get up there. So you beat the bosses, you get the abilities, you get... Again, it's nothing out of the way for any, like, many other Metroidvanias you've ever played. It's like, you can double jump, now you can dash and smash through walls, now you can ground pound, now you can climb walls, but, like, it's always worth going and exploring. So, like, every time you get a new ability, it's always worth going back over and actually exploring, because that's the thing a lot of Metroidvanias don't quite pull off, is whether it's worth it or not. Like, yeah, it's cool to be able to go down this different path, but was it worth it? Like, was it worth going out of your way, away from the critical story path, to actually go this way? Yeah, because you find all sorts of cool shit. Like, you find great fights, and you find cool mini-bosses, and you find cool new enemies, and stuff that makes it worth going and doing. So you'll find either spirit, energy, I can't remember what it's called. It's been a couple of weeks, and I was very sick when I played this game. So you find, like, spirit energy that you can use to level up your spirits and make them more powerful. But you also find, like, relics that you can equip in slots, so you can, like, give yourself extra heals or give yourself more health, or, like, do other really cool stuff, like increase your attack power when you're in the air, stuff like that. And finding this stuff is cool, and it makes you feel like you're actually progressing. Like, every time you level up a spirit, it does feel more powerful. Every time you find a relic that gives you more health, it does feel like it's making a difference, you know? So, like, I was always more than happy to find everything, basically. Like, to turn over every rock, to climb every wall, to smash through every red door. And on top of that, this is one of the most beautiful games I've played all year. Like, in terms of its art style. Like,
that style is pretty. It's very pretty.
You go to a bunch of different biomes, and they're all very distinct from one another. They're all very vibrant. Like, it's such a pretty looking game. Like, when you're at resting places, like, you got the menu, so you can, like, fast travel or upgrade stuff, change your relics. You can turn, but, like, the spirits that you have equipped are there. So, like, you'll be sitting on a bed, and like the 3 spirits that you actually have equipped will be standing next to you.
Yeah.
And you can turn the UI off and make some incredible screenshots.
Yeah, it does look really nice going off from the pictures I've looked at for it. Like, it looks like it's all hand drawn and everything, and that's like
Yeah.
really nice.
Yeah, it's breathtaking. Like it really is. Like you go some of the places you can go and see are just so gorgeous to look at. It's definitely one of my favorites. This games of the year for its art style.
Very good. Very good.
But it's an indie game, so Jeff's never heard of it.
That is true. That is true indeed. Story characters and voice acting.
There's no voice acting, so we can put that to one side. But the
Story characters. Then.
story and characters, it's an interesting one because the story is very subtle and it's told in a very specific way. Where it's like there's cutscenes and dialogue between actually I think almost exclusively just between Lily and the Fallen Knight. I think are the only 2 characters that speak to each other. Like when you defeat a boss, you can see their memories. So you get a cutscene where they're talking about a memory. But I think that's about as far as the dialogue goes. That isn't between those 2 characters. The story is mostly told through environmental storytelling and notes that you find and like context clues. And it's pretty heartbreaking game. Like they do a lot with a little. The music for one thing, like if I played you the boss fight music of Ender Lilies, and we'll talk about the music in a bit, like you wouldn't think it was a boss theme. Like sometimes like it goes all in on making you feel very specific emotions at very specific times. Like you'll fight a spirit at one point, you'll fight like a character and purify them, and then you'll find a note left by them. And then later on, you'll fight another boss. And then you'll realize this boss is that other character's sister, for example. And, like, you get another piece of that story, and it's like, like, this character lost her sister. You've met her sister. You've beaten them and purified them, like, 5 hours ago. And, like, you see stuff like that all over the game. And like, it's a world that's gone. It's like as you're playing through it, it's like you're trying to purify the world, but like why? Because everybody's been turned into monsters. Like, and it's really really touching in moments, and you wouldn't expect it until you started playing the game and you know what it's like. You wouldn't expect it to be as touching and emotional as it can be. And it does it with very little. Like, it does it with its music and its environments and its character designs and some notes that you find and you can read. There's no, like, 10-minute long cutscenes like there is in Lost Judgment.
Very good, very good. Like I say, it's always good, like, if a story can grab you. And that's what you want at the end of the day, so it's really good to hear that. That and music design.
Well, the sound's fine. Like, good sound design. You don't notice good sound design. Like that's always a saying, right? It's like if sound design is good, it's bad. That's when you notice it. So I didn't really notice the sound design too much in Ender Lilies. So it's good sound design. The soundtrack's fantastic. Might have been listening to it on Spotify a bit. Again, like you talk about like words like I've used to describe this game, and the game is used to describe itself: heartbreaking, sorrowful. Like it's very, very good music to make you feel feelings.
Very good music to make you feel feelings.
Yeah, like I think that's a fine sentence. I constructed that sentence to perfection, baby.
No, whatever works.
Whatever works, right?
Whatever works. What didn't work?
What didn't work? Moody. So I'm about 15, 20 hours in this game, right? Like I'm choking up just thinking about it with rage. And then there's a section. I don't know what the section's called, and I've gone to it, and it's like, okay, you have to go in and you pick up this item, and you have to equip it because the whole section, like the water's poisoned, and there's like poison clouds in the air. And like you take damage as you're traveling through, and I'm like, that's not a great thing. Like I hate that. Like already, like I'm already like I hate that, but it's fine because I'm loving this game, right? So I can fight my way through it, and it's just another challenge. It's another thing on the challenge. This level is filled with all of the worst enemies in the game. On top of the poison, I'm going through and I'm like, this is starting to become really annoying. Like, you have to you start off at the elevator that'll take you down, but you've got to then go to 2 different paths to unlock doors that let the elevator go all the way to the bottom where you can fight the boss. So I'm doing it, and I'm getting through it, and I'm dying a lot, and I'm getting frustrated because the enemies are fucking pissing me off. And I get to a point where I'm like, okay, I know where I need to go. Like, I can see the path, the direction that I need to travel in. I am going to ignore all of the side paths. That's not great when you play the Metroidvania, when you start going, I'm going to ignore all of these side paths because I don't want to go down them. I just want to get through this level because I've got this feeling in my gut, right, that once I could get through this level, I'll be back to loving the game, right? There's always one level that's annoying in every fucking game like this. And then I get to the boss fight, and I'm like, finally, I've got to the boss. Now I can just fight the boss. The boss fights have been epic. So this will be good, right? Wrong, Moody. Wrong. This boss fight sucks so bad. I've just gone through this gauntlet of shit. And then I get to the boss, and it's one of the most boring boss fights I've ever had in my entire life. For the first 2 phases, each boss has 3 phases. For the first 2 phases, the boss can't hit me. Like, the boss doesn't move. It relies on attacks that, like, hit you from afar and stuff. And I figured out it's very slow. And I figured out how to very easily dodge all of the attacks. But it's got a shit ton of health. So it takes fucking ages to get through each phase. And then you get to the 3rd phase, and all of its attacks go into super turbo mode, and it's impossible to dodge. So I can't get past this boss. So I'm stuck. I am stuck in the worst area of the game, fighting the worst boss in the game. And I gave up. I just gave up. There's an attack this boss does, and I have tried to fight this boss like a dozen times, and there's an attack it does, and what it does is, it does it multiple times, and it's so fast, and you have to hang in the air to dodge it, because you can't, like, just dodge it. You have to, like, hang on the air, and, like, you fall, and you have to fall at just the right moment, because you have to get up in the air, because it's going to do that attack again, and I kept dying, and I couldn't figure out how to dodge it. The thing that stopped me is I got the boss to like that much health left, and then I got killed. And I just went, it broke me. It broke me. Like, you could see, if I was streaming this game, you would have been able to see my soul leave my body. And I just went, I can't do this anymore. Because I'm going to hate this game. If I keep having to try to push through, I'm going to end up hating this game. And I love this game. That's what makes it so bastard annoying that I've reached this particular point of the game, because everything leading up to that, like I said in my general thoughts, is like, this is going to be one of my games of the year. I can see this is going to be one of my games of the year. And then I got to this section and I was like, oh shit. If I could give someone my PlayStation controller and say, get me past this bit, and then give me the controller back, I'd do it. I would do it. I can't do this bit anymore. I just can't bring myself to try and get through this, so I've stopped playing it, and I don't know if I'm going to go back, hence why we're doing this review now.
Fair. That's fair. It's disappointing to hear all of that. Like, that's I think it's trying to going off what I've studied and everything like that, trying to find that right balance. It's incredibly difficult for any game developer in general, especially for an indie developer. Especially as the indie developer is very fixated on a vision for them, what they want for a game and everything. So that can be like that's arguably one of the biggest downsides when it comes to an indie game, because it's basically kind of quote unquote their way or the highway type of thing.
Absolutely. And like, they nailed it for me personally. For the first 15-20 hours of the game, they fucking nailed it. Like, and all I can do is tell you how I feel and like what I think. That's it.
The thing is about it, the simple fix for that is putting in like an accessibility type mode into it, like where it just like slows things down for you. Because the thing is about it, like, going off what I saw from you when you played Insight or Incited, Unsighted. The part where the game gets really really fast, like, you were like concentrating mode, but also panicking mode at the same time because of everything's coming at you at once, and that can really trigger you sometimes on everything. And it seems like this game did the same thing. So, but they also had in that game there were parts that you
You
could
could
lower
do
the
stuff.
level,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, to make yourself a lot more easier for you. This game sounds like it doesn't have that.
No,
Or
it
am I
doesn't
wrong?
have anything. No, it doesn't have anything in terms of difficulty or accessibility options. Like I'm not too proud to do it. If I could drop the difficulty for this one boss fight, I'd fucking do it, and then I'd just turn it back
Yeah.
up again when I'm done. Like,
Yeah.
I don't mind, but I can't, so I'm stuck. And I was just like, and I could like, if I really went for it, I could probably get past it. You know, like I'm not saying it's
Yeah.
impossible, but for me to do that, it could destroy like how I feel about the game completely if I try to like brute force my way through it, right?
Yeah, because at the end of it, you could be just hating this game.
Yeah. Well, it's
If you
like
don't want to
Bloodborne.
do that.
It's like Bloodborne,
Yeah.
one of my favorite games ever. And when I was playing it, the second to last boss, I got stuck on. But I just used the Bloodborne's co-op multiplayer to summon another player into my game, and together we beat the boss. Like even Bloodborne gave me tools I could use to beat a boss I was struggling with.
Yeah.
I just wish Ender Lilies had anything, just one thing to let me just get past this one boss. Like, oh, we can see you're struggling. Would you like to drop the difficulty? Yes, I would. For this one fight, I really would. It's 2/3 tedious boredom, and then 1/3 death. I get to the third phase and die after like spending like 6 or 7 minutes just being bored, which doesn't help.
Yeah, and that's ultimately is what we've always been crapping on about when it comes to being easy. But it's not about being easy; it's about making it accessible for people to be able to play the games. And sadly, if a game makes you want to quit, they've done something wrong, not you.
Yeah.
You don't have anything else down to talk about there. So, final thoughts of this game.
Ender Lilies is a fantastic, fantastic game. Like, I know I've just spent the last 10 minutes bitching about one part of it, like, and I stand by what I said about that, but, like, it's such a great game. Like, it up until the part that lost me, it's such a fantastic experience. Like, I was really, really sick when I played this game, and I needed something to, like, just occupy me, and like I said, I played so much of it in such a short space of time, like, and I loved it. I was so enraptured by this game. And then it fell apart for me. And I'm not bitter. Not at all.
No, not better at all.
Bitter at all.
Well, let us know what you think of Amy's bitter review. Let us know if you like the game, or if you're in the middle, or somewhere in the end, or somewhere that didn't work for you. Leave a comment down below. Because it's time for us to get the hell out of here to go and play more video games for us to eventually review them late. Say bye, Amy.
Toodaloo, motherfuckers. I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know what I'm doing. I
don't know what you're doing either. This game broke you indeed.
It did. It broke me.